You can buy a private island in the Caribbean, a penthouse in Manhattan, or even a plot of land on the moon if you are gullible enough to pay the scammers. But there is one place on this planet where no deed, no title, and no mortgage will ever hold weight. It is a frozen wasteland spanning 5.5 million square miles, and it is the only territory on Earth that is legally impossible to own. Welcome to Antarctica. It is the coldest, driest, and windiest place in existence. It holds 70% of the world's fresh water and 90% of its ice. Yet, despite being larger than the United States and Mexico combined, it has zero citizens, zero indigenous populations, and zero owners. To understand why you can't buy a slice of this ice cube, we have to travel back to the early 20th century. Back then, 7 nations, Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom, looked at the vast jagged map of Antarctica and saw potential. They didn't see a frozen graveyard, they saw sovereign territory. They began drawing lines in the snow. They claimed sectors like pieces of a delicious frozen cake. By the 1940s, tensions were rising. Countries were building research stations, military outposts, and permanent settlements to cement their claims. It was a geopolitical powder keg. If one nation decided to start drilling for oil or mining for minerals, war was inevitable. Then came the year 1959. 12 countries, including the United States and the Soviet Union, who were busy fighting the Cold War everywhere else on the planet, sat down in Washington, D.C. They realized that trying to divide Antarctica was a losing game for everyone. They drafted the Antarctic Treaty. It was signed in December 1959 and went into effect in 1961. It is a masterpiece of legal ambiguity. The treaty didn't necessarily cancel the old territorial claims, but it did something even more radical. It froze them. Article 4 of the treaty explicitly states that no new claims can be made and no existing claims can be enlarged. It effectively put the entire continent in a diplomatic deep freeze. Under the terms of this agreement, Antarctica was set aside for peace and science only. No military activity is permitted. No nuclear explosions are allowed. No radioactive waste disposal. It is the only continent on Earth that has been legally demilitarized and declared a sanctuary for scientific inquiry. Think about how rare that is. In a world where nations kill over invisible borders and river rights, humanity collectively agreed to just leave this one alone. But what if you are a billionaire with a dream? What if you want to build a resort on the Ross Ice Shelf or open a luxury hotel near the South Pole? You cannot, because you are not a country. And even if you were, there is no governing body to sell you the land. There is no land registry office in Antarctica. There is no tax assessor. There is no legal infrastructure for private property. If you set up a tent, you aren't a property owner, you are a trespasser or a guest of the science programs. Even the research stations themselves don't technically own the dirt beneath them. They operate under the permits of their home nations, who are bound by the treaty to not act like owners. Now, you might be thinking, what about the resources? Antarctica is rumored to be rich in coal, gold, iron, and perhaps vast oil reserves. Why hasn't the treaty been torn up? In 1991, the Madrid Protocol was added to the treaty. It explicitly banned all mining and mineral extraction. This ban is not permanent. It can be reviewed in 2048, but for now it remains the ironclad law of the ice. This brings us to a strange reality. Antarctica is a global commons. It belongs to everyone and to no one simultaneously. It operates on a system of consensus. Decisions regarding the continent require all treaty members to agree. It is one of the most bureaucratic and difficult places to get anything done, which is exactly the point. The bureaucracy is the shield that protects the continent from human greed. But what happens when the ice melts? As the climate shifts, the once unreachable minerals beneath the glaciers are becoming exposed. The world's hunger for lithium, cobalt, and rare earth minerals is reaching a fever pitch. Will the treaty hold when the resource-poor nations of the future look at that white expanse and see the literal fuel for the next century of global industry? We are currently living in a golden age of Antarctic isolation. It is a rare anomaly in human history where we have prioritized the environment over the economy and the future over the immediate present. But history teaches us that human appetites are rarely satisfied by legal documents. For now, Antarctica remains a silent, white sentinel. It is the only place left where you cannot plant a flag and call it yours. It exists as a reminder of what the world looks like when we decide that some things are simply too valuable to be owned. But we have to ask ourselves, is this temporary? Is our refusal to own Antarctica a sign of our maturity as a species? Or is it simply because, until now, it was too cold to be worth the trouble? The ice is retreating. The maps are changing. The treaty is aging. The last place on Earth you can't own might just be the place where we finally decide what kind of species we truly are. Because when the last barrier to ownership is the only thing standing between us and total exploitation, we will eventually have to choose. Do we leave it for the future? Or do we carve it up like everything else? The answer is written in the snow, but for now, the snow is still falling. Antarctica is the only continent that has no native human population. No countries, no government, no borders. It belongs to the entire world, which is the same as saying it belongs to nobody. And maybe that's exactly what it should be.